Let's talk about 2 forum posts I saw. 1, should boxing be allowed? And 2, why do people play on the newest TLP server? Let's go. Question, should boxing be allowed? Let's look at the best arguments for and against boxing, and is there a middle ground? Fire up the keyboard. Load hate comments. Send! Most progression servers are Truebox. Originally, the Truebox idea was 1 person, 1 character. The problem was that the developers couldn't enforce Truebox by internet address. Many families and spouses play together on the same internet, and the Truebox rule hoped to limit most people to 1 character while not excluding families from playing together. The developers figured a few people would simulate a spouse playing, but they underestimated how many people would actually do that. Currently with Truebox, if you want to legitimately play 2 characters at the same time, you need 2 separate computers using separate accounts. Now, these were the best arguments I found against boxing. 1. The servers can't handle the normal load of players that come with the new release. Allowing people to box as many accounts as they want would be a disaster of epic proportions. And yeah, I can understand this one. These servers usually hit population cap on release, very popular. And if real people aren't able to log in because of boxers, then that's a problem. That shouldn't happen. 2. The reality is when every Joe Blow runs a full group or raid, that old school feel of EQ is absolutely lost. And 3. Truebox was implemented after Ragefire and Lockjaw, earlier progression servers, and it was done to address mass boxing that existed in early expansions there. Fear, hate, etc. Many zones were pretty much perma-camped by armies of 36 to 72 mages running from a single computer. They destroyed everything that spawned. But there's a counter argument. Ragefire didn't have instant zones, so box armies were forced to compete with regular players. With instancing and loot rules like on Mischief, it really doesn't matter anymore. Now, these are the best arguments I found in favor of boxing. Number 1, Truebox rules are poorly enforced, and it allows rule breakers to enjoy a better experience than those who follow the rules. A very powerful PC running multiple virtual machines is not allowed. But owning 12 cheap laptops that you knit together, that's completely fine. This makes no sense. All it does is make the game expensive and glitchy for the people who want to box correctly, while conveying a huge advantage to people who break the rules. Right now, Truebox mostly hurts players who follow the rules. 2. Truebox doesn't stop people from boxing on TLPs. This is 100% within the rules of Truebox. 3. I used to Truebox, but with limited playtime and how fast people hit level cap, it was easy to be left behind. It was normal to be looking for a group for an hour out of the 3 hours I had to play before bed. And the last argument, number 4. You can't do anything meaningful without a tank, healer, and crowd control. Truebox rules work as long as you can find a group, but after a few months on progression servers, groups completely disappear. Middle ground arguments. Truebox has its place in its early TLP. On release, Eridune, the non-boxing server, was far more popular than Rizlona, the 2-box server. But the key word was more popular. Go look at their stats now. The 2-box server is 97% of the time at high population, and the non-boxing server is 88% of the time at medium. Boxing servers have better staying power. And the second middle ground argument. CeeLo, the fast TLP server, brought this up a lot. After Planes of Power and Lost Dungeons and Norath, Truebox should come off of TLPs since the game was designed with boxing in mind by that point. It would also help with the brutal player attrition that kills servers. So in my opinion, I like the middle ground arguments the most. Discourage boxing for the first few expansions, especially when the server's at population cap. Boxes should not take a real player's spot. Then after Lucklin, let people box 2 to 3 characters per computer. It'll help with the population decline that always happens. It's more money for Daybreak, and I don't think players on these older servers would be mad. I think they'd appreciate being able to have extra help. And now for the last question, what drives people to play on the newest TLP? So the original poster, he gave 4 major reasons, he thought: for nostalgia, chrono farming, social interaction, and boredom from other servers. But there's some other good comments about this. So why do people play on the newest TLP? Joining live after an extended time away is a chore. Being on the curve and equalish to everyone around you is what MMOing is about. Defiant Gear and Mercenaries render the most loved parts of EverQuest irrelevant. It's just not the same as playing content in era with real people. And live versus TLP isn't as much of a thing as people think. Many of us actually do both. The number one reason people play the new TLP is they fell behind. A new server is an even starting line for everyone. EverQuest level 1 to 65 is most people's favorite, and it's the best experience they have had or ever will in an MMO. It's because there's nothing else out there worth playing anymore that I'm not completely over. I put many years into World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Rift, Final Fantasy, SWTOR, and nameless others. There's just nothing else like this game, and nothing coming to take its place that isn't years off, or essentially vaporware. Once you fall behind a lot, there's little reason to bust your hump though, trying to catch up, go at it mostly alone. And I think this is the best comment for it. So why do people play on the newest TLPs? It's wanting to play EverQuest without needing to frickin' box. That's a damn good reason. But there might be a secret behind all these new servers. So Redbeard Flynn might have suggested this. There's a sneaking suspicion that each new TLP was an A/B test to see which rule set is more popular, or what rules make more money, more subscriptions. So you had Mangler and CeeLo, a slow progression server versus a fast one. And I think Mangler had the greater population, so the community overall prefers slower progression, but I don't have the stats. If you guys can fact check me on this, I'd appreciate it. Rizlona and Aerodune. So on Rizlona, you could 2-box, and on Aerodune, no boxing. Per the forums, Aerodune had a bigger starting population, but Rizlona had better staying power. So I think the community prefers boxing in the long run, but maybe not immediately, not in the first few expansions. And then lastly, you had Thornblade and Mischief. There's really no difference between the two, but I think they were an overwhelming success. A lot of people really got interested by the random loot system, and most items being tradable. Hypothetically, Daybreak would make the most money by having a slower server with 2-boxing and random loot. But the folks at Daybreak are pretty creative. No matter what, I'm interested to see what they'll do in May, and let me know what you guys think in the comments about these arguments. Next video will be about how loot should be handled.